If there's one video that we should all be sharing right now to help amplify that voice, is the video of Douglas Murray at the Joe Rogan show. Watch that video.
There are plenty. How many? Have you been to the crossing points?
No.
When were you last there at all?
I've never been.
You've never been?
Well, am I not allowed to talk about it now? I've never been to. Have you ever been to Nazi Germany? Are you allowed to have feelings about them?
You can't time travel, but you
Well,
can.
right.
But you can travel.
Okay, but so what? So what's the point? Like,
No,
okay.
I find that
lots
very...
of people have been there and agree with me, and lots of people have been there and agree with you.
Yeah, but
so
if
I don't
you're
know
going to
what
spend a year and a half talking about a place, you should at least do the courtesy of visiting it.
All right. I just think this is a non-argument.
You don't
but
think?
Okay. No, I think it's a non-argument.
But if you're an expert,
Well, you have to go and touch the ground.
No, I think you have to see. I think it's a good idea to see stuff, particularly if you spend a career talking about something. Yes.
Wow. Honestly, to be someone that is putting so much effort and time talking, having such a huge platform, and you've never been to the place, physically walked it, that means that all the information that you got there was very likely manipulated either through whoever wrote the book that you read or whoever made the video that you watched. And that is very irresponsible. Everything that I'm talking about is things that I've seen with my own eyes and I've been there, or that I've literally talked to people and then I was able to form some kind of an idea. And even then I would say I haven't been there. One of the reasons I'm not talking about the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I have a lot of opinions about it, is because there's so much that I don't know. These guys, Joe Rogan kind of disappointed me here. But let's keep hearing.
I have a journalistic rule of trying never to talk about a country even in passing unless I've at least been there.
Okay.
It's a sort of normal. It's a normal thing to do. You're talking about. Hang on. You're talking about crossing points, and not only have you never been to a crossing point in either Egypt or in Israel, but you've never even been to the region.
Okay. Again, I think this is a non-argument. I don't understand.
No, it's not a non-argument.
Yeah, it is.
It's not a non-argument. If you're insisting that you're an expert of some kind, or not claiming you're an expert but still talking about it, about the provisions going into Gaza or not, if you've never seen any of this going on.
So you're not
That's
allowed to
amazing
speak
to
about
me.
things that you've read about. You can only speak about things that you've seen with your own eyes.
You can talk about what you want, as you're proving. But that is a different matter from spending an awfully long amount of time talking about an issue in a region you haven't even had the courtesy to visit.
That is such a childish answer. So many people today are talking about things that don't matter to them. They don't have any skin in the game just because it's trendy, just because they're going to get a lot of likes. And that is very, very irresponsible. I think the viewers back home should have the wisdom to discern that guy. I might like him. He might be very good at intellectually explaining things, but he has no clue what he's talking about. And if that guy should have that some kind of an ethical courtesy, he would come and say, listen, guys, I haven't been there, but kind of, let's talk about it. But he's not doing that. He's literally going around explaining things he have never seen.
Whilst developing all of these views about it. I mean, now I slightly get an idea of where you're coming from.
Exactly.
You've read about this blockade, and so you imagine that that's what it is. I imagine you've read all the people who say that Gaza was a concentration camp. It's a war that Hamas started because they shouldn't have invaded their neighbor and they shouldn't have tried to genocide their neighbor. Now, if the war can be prosecuted, could be prosecuted, it was always for two reasons. Always for two reasons. The first one, as stated by the unanimity of Israeli politicians and others, was to retrieve the hostages, who we also haven't spoken about, but there are still hostages in Gaza held for the last 18 months by Hamas, including young Eden Alexander from New Jersey. If Hamas had not stolen the hostages and hidden them in their tunnels and hidden them in civilian homes, this war would have all been different. If they had have given them back, and they could give them back tomorrow, it would all be different. But they didn't. They decided to do what they did on the 7th and to hold on to the 250-odd hostages as it was at the beginning, from the beginning. The second reason why the war is still being prosecuted is because of the stated aim to destroy Hamas, which is the stated aim of the Israelis. Neither of these things is remotely easy, okay? And just from a point of humility, I think, on everyone's side, we should concede none of that is easy. It is not easy to get 250 hostages back when they have been distributed across the Gaza to civilian homes, hidden in tunnels, surrounded by munitions and much more.
Wow. Listen, guys, as someone who spent a lifetime in the army, in the special forces, and our direct main training was hostage rescue, I can tell you without no doubt that this is probably one of the most complicated hostage rescue operation in modern history. 250 hostages? For one hostage, you know how much work it will take and preparation to come and rescue that hostage. To give you a glimpse, an example, let's say there's a hostage right now in an apartment building in your town. The SWAT team, the Special Forces, SAS, Delta Force, whoever's gonna come there, it's not just a bunch of Rambos and Jason Bournes. There's a whole team behind it, from the umbrella team that is gonna come and control all the electricity and all the signals that is gonna go there, up until controlling the ventilation, the heat in the building, putting so much technology to start scanning, clearing the whole area so there's no civilian casualties while if in case things go sideways. You're gonna have the Air Force, you're gonna have special dog unit, you're gonna have negotiation team, which is part of what I did as well in terms, I did the hostage rescue and the negotiation. I got the privilege to be in both worlds. And then you have all the preparation coordination between the teams. Then you need to see what is exactly, who is inside, how many, what is happening, how anxious they are. You have a team of psychologists, a team of for social behaviors, team of religious experts, team of every expert in the world you'll bring to that mission. You'll have espionage, secret agents. You'll have different kind of teams going around. If it's the terror monkeys, if it's the SWAT team that is going to breaching team, if it's the snipers, just to go and put the snipers in place. And I'm saying all of this is in your territory, in your country. That's not in enemy land, in enemy territory. The entire society in Gaza, or at least a majority of them, are in it. The hostages are being hidden in civilian houses. The last hostage rescue operation that happened in Nusayrat, the whole refugee camp came and attacked the IDF, and the IDF had to go and basically open and clear, I call it the Red Sea, kind of open for them so they can get out of there safely, because all the civilians were going. The hostages were hiding in civilian houses, and that's only one hostage. This we have right now, an entire nation of Gaza together kidnapped so many innocent people and have been moving them and hiding them and covering. There's not a single story of a hostage in Gaza that was rescued by a Gazan. Just shows you all you need to know. So it's so complicated. And then comes this numbskull who thinks he knows everything about the Middle East and everything about military operation and have an opinion. And he's never been there. Unbelievable. Let's keep going.
Hamas is not an actor like Denmark. Its backers don't behave the way that our governments do in the West. They have a totally different time scale that they think along. They have a totally different scale of values as well. The taunts of Hezbollah's leadership, of Hamas's leadership, of their backers in Tehran are annihilationist to their core. But at any point in the last 18 months, the Qataris, for instance, or the Iranians, the Iranian Revolutionary Government, or the Turkish government or others, could have put their pressure on Hamas to return the hostages who are still being held in captivity, and everything would be different. Secondly, as you know, I'm sure, you don't have to have seen this with your own eyes to know it, as I'm sure you know, the way in which Hamas built up the structure of the Gaza throughout the 18 years that they had was precisely to flout and use every law of war against the Israelis. Every army in a conflict has certain rules of war that you're meant to abide by. One of the most obvious is that you are identified as being a combatant, not as a civilian. Okay? Another is you don't put weapons in civilian houses and civilian buildings. You do not fire from houses of worship, rockets. You do not launch attacks from hospitals. You do not keep detention facilities where you can torture and disappear people inside hospitals and other medical facilities. All of these laws of war are the laws that Hamas breaks every minute of every day by their actions. So if you want to get the hostages back, and if you want to destroy Hamas, when you're fighting against a force which does not only not follow the rules of war, but uses your following of the rules of the laws of war against you, at least concede This is a highly specific and complex military operation. And if you have, or anyone else has, and I say this genuinely, a better way to get back the hostages and to destroy Hamas, I at any rate am all ears. I am so startled by the post-October the 7th world, not just in Israel and Gaza and everywhere where I've spent most of the last 18 months, but in what's happening here in the United States of America. It blows my mind, much of the response here, and the desire to leap over the first victims of this and go on to all of the proximate causes, theoretical causes, what-ifs, and so on. I was, as I described in the opening of this book, I was in New York on the 7th of October, and I woke up and started seeing what was happening and discovered that later that day already there were plans to organize a protest in Times Square. And what was the protest in Times Square? Massive protest in support of Hamas, as the massacre was still going on. And one of the things I just cannot get out of my head is why in the last 18 months, when Hamas did what they did, have so many people made excuses for them, or decided to side with them, or deny their actions, or excuse their actions?
Why do you think that is?
Several very, very big things. One is, I think people wanted to ignore the nature of the atrocity because it was so appalling that it went against much of their narrative.
I think that is probably one of the most important questions that is still relevant to anyone who's not living in Israel. People that are living in the West. Because that is coming to show you a very serious problem that you have among your own countries. It's black and white. There was never in modern warfare history such a clear definition who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. Undoubtedly clear. And you have these people in your countries and they're supporting that. Wow, insane. Before we continue, guys, just want to remind, if you enjoy the content on my channel, do the like, share, subscribe. If you want to find direct ways to support this channel, go and check the Patreon where you can find direct practical ways to support the work that I'm doing here, because after all, I am doing this for free and out of my own free time. Without further ado, let's go back to this. Wow, he's literally probably the best ambassador, or one of the best ambassadors for Israel.
I was at a reunion of one of the survivors of the Nova Party on one occasion, and he said to me, "What would you do if this had happened in your country?" And I thought, well, it hasn't happened at this scale, but something like it has happened. The Ariana Grande arena bombing in Manchester in 2017, the Bataclan massacre in Paris in 2015, the Pulse nightclub shooting in 2015. But all of these occasions when young people were murdered for being at a pop concert or a nightclub, the world's attention, the world's empathy, the world's sympathy went to the victims.
What would you do if that would have happened in your country? I think this is one of the most important questions to ask. Take politics aside right now. A bunch of radical jihadist Muslims just break into your little village in Europe or town in the US and just murder in the most brutal way, rejoicing over it, filming it, sending videos to the families of how their loved ones were, mutilated and killed in their last moments. What would you do if that would have happened in your country? That's a very important question.
Only in the case of the young Israelis dancing in the early hours of the morning on October the 7th, 2023, do the victims become victimized again and not believed. The era we lived through in the late 2010s was the era of believe all women. And of all the Israeli women who were raped that morning, much of the international community does not want to listen to them at all, and certainly doesn't want to believe them. And there are many reasons. One, at the most fundamental level, is that I think a part of a generation that's coming up has been told there is something especially wicked about Israel, that there is something especially wicked about Israel's existence and its actions and its people, and it means that when their people are burned alive in their homes or raped at a music festival and shot in the head, they are uniquely undeserving of sympathy. And I think that people have been indoctrinated by very bad actors into this, and as a result have excused atrocities or will make excuses for them, make excuses for the people who do them. I think, in addition, it plays to some of the darkest things of the regional mind as well as the international mind. The aims of Hamas, their stated aims, include the annihilation of the Jewish people. And October the 7th, they had their best go at doing that. And the fact that in a decision between whether or not you're on the side of the people who want to dance and live in peace with their neighbors, or whether you're on the side of the people who want to rampage through a dance party bar in the early morning, macheteing at people, I find it amazing that there are so many people who don't know which side they're on. But there are a lot of them. There are a lot of reasons for that. But one of the foremost reasons is the fact that the state of Israel has been uniquely libeled, has been uniquely lied about. Its history has been uniquely lied about. It has been uniquely put under an international spotlight and then misrepresented in a way which I cannot think of many other countries in the world that have been treated that way. And there are deep reasons for it and shallow reasons for it. The deep reasons include some of the most ancient bigotries of the human heart, and the shallow reasons are people who don't know what the hell they're talking about.
The only genocide attempt that happened in that region during that war was by Hamas towards Israel. Now, the question that he asked her in the end, why is it that Israel is the only country in the world that, doesn't deserve sympathy, that have to explain itself all the time while they're actually literally trying to survive and are held to a whole different, very, very biased standard? There's so many answers that can go there. It can go philosophically, historically, spiritually. I don't know. What do you think it is? Honestly, if you have any good explanation, leave it in the comment. But as an Arab that was born and raised in Israel, it is by far the best country for Arab, for a Jew, for a Christian, for any minority, any religion to live in the Middle East. It's literally the only hope for peace in the Middle East. And I'm telling you this as an Arab and someone that the world is trying to make it look like we're the ones suffering. We're not in Israel. We're so lucky to be living in Israel. Look what's happening in all these failing countries around us. But then come these numbskulls who have no skin in the game, have no idea what's going on, and for some reason they're so brainwashed. So, you know what? Could it be Qatari money? I don't know how, even with money that is sent to their banks, something that's untrackable, or directly even being paid to say these things. Because why on the earth would you be a freedom-loving Western person that enjoys all the benefits and fruits of Western civilization? Why would you stand against the only one that shares your same values like you when they're the victims here, and supports the one that undoubtedly share everything opposite than what you believe in? Women's rights, children marriage, gay rights, freedom rights, it's blows my mind, honestly. Well, anyway, Douglas Murray here, I think there's nothing else to add. He just made such a very well spoken, such a good explanation of what is happening, and I'm so glad that he got the platform to go to Joe Rogan. I know there was a lot of talks about, some things that he was maybe seeming cocky and etc., etc. To me, that's irrelevant right now because I focus on the content of what he said and what is important for the viewers to hear. Well done. Well done, Douglas. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to do the whole shebang, subscribe, like, check my Patreon, and in general, just don't do anything stupid or don't do anything that I would do. See you next time.